well as Naomi McAllister from the Budget Office. Bill 8723 amends the FY 2024 capital budget and program by making a supplementary appropriation of funds to the Board of Education for security-related upgrades, roof replacement, capital projects, and to the Anne Arundel County Community College's Campus Improvements Capital Project. Additionally, it requests a transfer of funding sources in the Board of Ed's Old Middle School South Capital Project and will increase the Board of Education's level appropriation in two capital projects by $3,277,500. And it's the result of an increase in the state grant funding being higher than those estimated in the FY 2024 capital budget and program. And we are happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Advian.
It sounds like we've got, so I feel like I have a good understanding of what AACPS is doing. This gives a little, enough description that I can get my head around that. What are the campus improvement capital projects that the community college is looking at? And just full disclosure, I have not actually looked at the bill yet, so.
There you go.
Good morning, Melissa Beardmore from Anne Arundel Community College. So the Campus Improvements Project is a capital project that the college has really for emergencies and for, if we don't have any emergencies, we use it for deferred maintenance. This transfer will allow us to use $1 million of our PAYGO, our fund balance, to fund emergency repairs to a pedestrian bridge that connects the east and west campus. That late in the summer we did an inspection. We tend to repair boards, the wooden boards, like a boardwalk during that time. And when we started to pull off the boards, we noticed significant deterioration in what are called purlins, which is the infrastructure, steel infrastructure of the bridge, and brought in a structural engineer and determined that in an abundance of caution, we should close the bridge and make the necessary repairs to the purlins. So this will allow us to use our fund balance to make those repairs and hopefully get the bridge open in time for spring, because it is a means of egress, between East and West Campus.
Thank you. That sounds like a very, very well needed project.
Any other questions for my colleagues? Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. We will move on to Bill 8923. I believe that is Ms. Fiedler's bill.
Technically, Ms. Ledbetter is the lead, but since she is not present.
Oh, we can, you want to?
Yeah, I think
we'll move it around.
Okay.
Mr. Hunt, is it okay if we go ahead with Bill 90-23?
Certainly.
While we wait for the sponsor to arrive.
Absolutely. So Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Christine Nieder from the Office of Law and Marnie Wilson from Real Estate. Bill 9023 is approving the private disposition of county-owned property in Brooklyn Heights. This property is located in Brooklyn Park and is comprised of a portion of Brooklyn Heights Park adjacent to Park Elementary School. It's a little over half an acre. Property was conveyed to the county back in 1968. This request came from the Anne Arundel County Board of Education, which is interested in obtaining a portion of the adjacent park to enlarge the grounds for Park Elementary School. The county council has been provided a map of the surrounding area as part of the legislative package. If you approve this ordinance at the next council meeting or when it's being heard, the real estate division will proceed with disposing this property in accordance with the county code. We're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for my colleagues? Seems pretty straightforward. Thank you. All right, we're moving through today. We will now hear Bill number 91-23, an ordinance concerning public safety officer property tax credit. I am the lead sponsor on this bill.
Would it be an appropriate time for me to request to be added as a co-sponsor, or do I need to do that in our meeting on Monday?
So noted. We'll add you to the top of the bill. Thank you, Ms. Radvian.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, please add me as well.
So noted, Ms.
Thank you.
Fiedler.
This bill enhances our current property tax credit for public safety officers and expands it to retired officers. We're ready to hear anything the admin would like to add. Sounds like you have 7 co-sponsors from the council, so
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Chris Trumbauer from the Budget Office, Brian Schenk from the Budget Office, and Kelly Kenny from the Office of Law. Recognizing that the bill does have 7 co-sponsors and the council is the final fiscal authority, I just want to advise you that we did run some preliminary numbers. So we have nearly as many retired public safety officers in Anne Arundel County as we do current active public safety officers under this bill. So looking at the numbers, so currently we have 723 people, individuals who receive this property tax credit. If expanding it to retirees could encompass another 678 individuals. Increasing the amount of the credit to $3,000 in FY24 would increase the burden that is borne by other taxpayers in Anne Arundel County for this credit by about $2 million. In FY25, it goes up to 2.3 and continues keeping those same assumptions. So that, you know, in light of that, the administration would have to look at either, you know, increasing the rate on other taxpayers to account for that credit or find cost savings somewhere else or some combination of the two. And we're happy to answer any questions.
I don't really see any questions at this time. I'll just state we are, I feel like this tax credit is a significant benefit and a recruitment and a retention tool for our public safety officers, which is why I was willing to be the lead sponsor. So I don't see any questions at this time, but we'll look forward to that fiscal note analysis and see you at the public hearing.
Actually, I just thought of a question. Do we know what percentage of those current personnel and retirees are homeowners in the county?
So the numbers for the current personnel, those would all be homeowners. Those are individuals currently receiving the tax credit. We don't know how many of the retirees are homeowners. I believe our assumptions were that the majority of them would be homeowners. We had personnel run the numbers of how many retirees have an Anne Arundel County zip code, but we obviously don't know the ownership of every property. So
just to clarify, you're saying every single of our public safety officers are homeowners in the county?
The 724 who are receiving the property tax credit would be homeowners.
Thank you.
There are probably more that are renters and would not be receiving.
And I know we have a certain number who live outside the county altogether.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So do you know, so 723, is that what you said, currently
I believe
currently
so,
avail
yeah.
themselves of this tax credit? But we have folks, the catchment of those folks who would technically qualify is much larger than that, if they were homeowners.
If they were homeowners, correct.
I mean, we have more than 723 public safety officers.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Yes, okay. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Madam Secretary, I want to make sure I'm on the right agenda. What are we doing next?
I think it might be a good idea to go back to Bill 8923 now that Ms. Ledbetter is here.
That's a good idea. Thank you. I have 3 different agendas in front of me somehow. Ms. Ledbetter, we did skip to wait for your presence. So we will hear 8923.
Thank you for the courtesy, greatly appreciated. Morning took a turn that was unexpected for me, so appreciate your patience. This bill is a result of an update to state law that allows the county to define law enforcement officers. The state legislator worked very closely with a Anne Arundel County resident to draft the state law in hopes to affect a situation where we have many federal law enforcement officers that obviously they reside in Anne Arundel County. When they may become disabled, they may, make the ultimate sacrifice in their service, and the goal is to retain those households as residents of Anne Arundel County so that the county can reap the benefits of those residents, whether it be the spending that they're doing, their shopping, their volunteerism, all the benefits that these types of individuals provide to Anne Arundel County. And so I worked to update the county code so that it reflects the changes in the state law.
Does the administration have anything?
I won't rehash our previous conversation. The only thing I would say is that I don't believe we have a way to accurately calculate how many fallen or disabled federal law enforcement officers reside in Anne Arundel County.
I go to the same point that Ms. Pickard made, and I share on the bill we were just discussing regarding public safety property tax credits. But I believe personally, and it's why I became the lead sponsor on this, that this is a cost worth bearing for this particular population.
With our current, the current tax credit regarding disabled or fallen law enforcement officers, who is currently in that catchment and how do we qualify them? I mean, with this add, we'd have to qualify a federal, do we have any other federal retirees in that category currently receiving? I'm sorry, it's really.
No, there's no current federal. It would be as deemed, I'd want to look, I don't have the bill up in front of me at this exact second, sorry. Consequence of being late. The current language in the bill, it is, it has to be disabled in the line of service, the law enforcement officer. So it can't be, while you're raking your leaves or something along those lines. It has to be within the line of duty. And then there is a certification process that the county, correct me if I'm wrong, follows to a documentation that's required.
Brian Shank, Tax Billing Manager for the Office of Finance. There is a certification process. Many of the law enforcement officers from Anne Arundel County, very easy and straightforward. We would go to Office of Personnel, verify that they were actually qualified as disabled in the line of service. If they were from a neighboring jurisdiction, Maryland State Trooper, then we'd have to go through the appropriate channels with that agency. Thinking this through as how we might administer it now, we'd have to go through the appropriate federal agency. That may require some research because the federal government is relatively large and there's different pieces of that. So it may be that an FBI agent might require the Bureau to be involved, or it might be in a corresponding Office of Personnel type entity for the federal government. But we'd have to get a certification from them that they were actually disabled in the line of service.
Okay. Mr. Volke?
Hi. Good morning. Question about this. So I had been looking at doing a similar type bill, and I may still bring that down with some tax credits like this. And looking at the certification requirement, one of the things that we had toyed with in the version that I was looking at was requiring the person who was the applicant to supply you with that, so you don't have to go do the legwork. Would that be something that would be helpful to the Office of Finance?
Certainly would be.
Okay.
With other tax credits, comparably, we do ask for documentation from the person who's applying for it.
Yep.
Sometimes we do want a point of contact so that we could reach out to that. So if they would supply we were certified by this agency, here's our point of contact.
Okay.
That would probably be very helpful for us to actually go out then and say, could you confirm this representation?
Yeah, it just seems like that might decrease the workload on you all, but then still give the applicant the ability to get the tax credit. But if they're not from our jurisdiction, that gives you a way to grab that information a little more easily.
Something like that would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't appear that I have any other questions, so we will move along. We're going to proceed with resolution number 53-23. This is a county executive bill. Mr. Hunt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Christine Niederer will be back at the table with me. So Resolution 5323 relates to condemnation proceedings to acquire real properties located in Gambrels for a stream restoration project. So the county owns property. It's comprised of approximately 8.5 acres and designated as floodplains in Gambrels. It's shown on the tax map, parcel 61 on map 36. WSC Evergreen Business Trust owns adjacent property, which is known as 2515 Evergreen Road in Gambrels. In response to Evergreen's proposed development activities in the surrounding area, County Office of Planning and Zoning required Evergreen to design and obtain permits for a stream restoration project, which the county will build under capital project number B556700. Once all the permits have been obtained, in order to obtain permits for the stream restoration, Evergreen is required to obtain authorization and approval from all impacted property owners. Evergreen, however, determined they could not obtain the necessary authorization and approval to obtain the permits. They subsequently requested that a county proceed with condemnation proceedings for the properties. Department of Public Works has been unable to purchase the property from the record owners who are deceased. Section 8-3-101C2 of the county code provides that the property may be acquired by condemnation after identification by the county council, together with a determination and declaration that the acquisition is necessary for a public purpose. The purpose DPW has determined is for right-of-way acquisition and construction of the restoration project in a highly eroded stream channel. And we are happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any questions. I'm not sure this is going to be worthy of the traffic this morning. We will move along to Bill 88-23, an ordinance concerning accessory structures in front yards. Ms. Fiedler, that is your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an interesting predicament that was brought to my attention by a constituent in my district, and my understanding is that this particular situation occurs in other districts. I had a homeowner who was moving forward with a permit for a pergola and some hardscaping in what they consider their backyard, but by code is considered their front yard because it abuts a county roadway. So they were denied their permit based on that. So long story short, in summary, this bill says that your backyard is your backyard to do such things, even though the county considers it a front yard.
Would the administration like to engage on this one?
No, not particularly. I do want to thank the sponsor for working with OPZ to hash out this language. It's a corner lot, so they actually have two front yards, but I believe. So OPZ is comfortable with this. We're fine with this legislation.
And I have to thank OPZ for basically handing me what they have drafted and we're working on anyway, so.
Okay. Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you. Just one question. I just want to make sure, I believe I understand the intent. I just want to make sure it's really clear before we consider putting this into code. I'm looking at the, let's see, it's on line 39 of page 2, I'm pretty sure. Yes. And where it talks, if both front lot lines provide access to the lot, the prevailing front yard pattern on adjoining lots shall be used to determine the front yard. I am picturing in my head, I grew up on a corner lot. There's a front yard pattern on both streets. And so I'm just wondering which one is the prevailing? Is it the one where the driveway is, even if there is an access point? I'm just trying to make sure that it's really clear about what the intent is, because there were, on the street the corner that I grew up on, there were two prevailing roads. So just a pattern on one and a pattern. Yeah, there was a pattern on both sides.
The way that I understand this to go into practice is that the majority of frontages that it follows would be the prevailing. So if you're on a corner lot, I've never seen a doorway face the corner. It's usually one road or the other road.
Right. So
if it follows the pattern of this road, but not this road, that would be the considered frontage, if that makes sense. If your front access is the same as
So like where the
these
front
five,
door is?
yes,
Would that
that's
be,
what-
so where the front door is would be the road that we're looking at as considered the prevailing pattern?
That's the way I understand it to be.
That makes sense. I
Because
just want to make sure we all are on the same page.
So if you were to have a home with a door on one road and a garage entry on the other road, but the garage entry, when you look at the garage entry and then the adjacent homes on that road, they're all front doors, then that's different. That's a garage door and then front doors versus all front doors. This is an odd conversation to have.
It is, but now 100% perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Radvian?
Thank you. So just to clarify, the prevailing pattern would be based on the characteristics of the corner home itself, the structure itself, that you're looking at what is designed to be the front of the home, like with the front door.
That's the way I intended it to be. I don't know if Ms. Kenny would agree with the interpretation. If it's not, then we can certainly tweak it.
Kelly Kenny, Supervising County Attorney. Yes, I do agree with that. I'll take a closer look and make sure that there's no tweaks that are necessary based on this discussion, but how you interpreted it is how I would have interpreted it as well.
Thank you.
Seeing no further lights, we'll move on to the next bill. Bill number 92-23. This is also Ms. Fiedler's bill.
Thank you. So this legislation focuses on our small business zoning districts and really came out of work done by the previous council. And then as we move forward into looking at appropriate zonings countywide, the small business zoning districts were written in a way that at the time served the smaller business community. But as Anne Arundel County moves forward and certain property owners or businesses are looking at opportunities without going to commercial zoning, the small business section of our code had some restrictions that were making it a challenge. So the first section of the bill, 17.711, deals with architectural features, understanding that the original intent of the small business district really conceived or considered the idea of vacant homes or homes that were in areas that weren't really residentially conducive. So businesses were going into what looked like a home. But over time, there are small businesses or those pursuing small business zoning that don't have necessarily the specific architectural features needed to be considered. So the change in definition addresses that. I'm actually open to tweaking it even more. The use chart, there are additions that are smaller in scope in the C1 category that cater to the daily needs of residential areas. And there are adjustments in the bulk regs to allow for flexibility. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you just elaborate on the looking at the circles on the map of where we already have small business districts, are all small businesses in those small business districts in residential dwellings currently?
I don't know if they're all in residential dwellings. I know the ones in District 5 are in what looks like a house or could be considered an architectural style of a house.
So is the goal to maintain that?
The goal is to allow for flexibility on a certain roadway frontage. A minor arterial road or road of a lower classification would have to be more the house style, but anything above that could have a more office building type of look.
Just what happens to, are we catching anybody up in this? Will they now be, if we change the code, are we catching any small businesses up in that they're not architecturally compatible with this language? Is that a problem?
Councilwoman Pickard, and to partly answer Ms. Fiedler's question, the majority of properties, based on our assessment, that are zoned SB now are in residential type structures. They look like residential structures. There are a few that look more like a commercial building than a residential structure. So they're in place now. I think the only question would be if a property owner of one of these sites came in for a permit, then the permitting staff would be looking to see that they're in compliance with the code. So to my knowledge, the more commercial looking buildings, I may have to check this, but are on a major arterial. So if this bill passes as drafted, it would exempt those on a major arterial from having to meet that architectural standard. But others would need to meet it, which is the intent of the small business district.
Okay. Any other questions or?
I want to say thank you for providing us a map. And then I wanted to ask, would it be possible to provide even a more detailed map? Because I'm looking at, I'm looking at the map and trying to see, okay, what properties are we talking about to get, a clear idea of what those are in my district. And I think I know, but it's not clear enough that I know exactly. Is there a way to, or even provide, addresses of really any, well, probably the small businesses in those districts, or the lots that would be, or parcels or whatever?
Yes, we could, but probably what I can send you that would be helpful is we have just a description of each of the districts themselves, and it includes how many properties are in that district, and then whether they're residentially or whether they're commercial, how they're used. So we could send you that, which might be helpful. And then if you need specific addresses, we could pull that too.
Yeah, it's basically something that would allow me to identify, we're talking about this building here. Because I noticed that one of them is an area that, in my district, for example, has had a lot of conversation in our regional plan. So I just would want to see how that fits with the conversation that I'm already aware of among constituents in my community.
Sure.
And to add to Ms. Miller's suggestion, we also, in our conversations working on this bill, there are a variety of PDFs I think we have that just give a snapshot of our online GIS system that show where these are. I think the reason that we moved to this countywide map, it was hard to figure out where those were on the map. So I can send you that information.
Understandable. You're trying to provide a big picture, but
yes,
yeah.
I'll send you.
Thank you.
Any other questions about Bill 92-23? Okay. Are there any other items any council member would like to discuss at this time? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The county council is adjourned until December 18th, 2023.